people use the term cyber warfare very, very loosely. And when you talk about that, I think people often in their minds are thinking, well, the whole point of cyber warfare is it's just another level of hacking, right? Hackers for decades have been breaking into companies to steal money, to steal data, to try to learn about their competitors. And that still happens. Most break-ins these days in companies are not because somebody built some kind of cyber weapon. It's because people reuse their corporate passwords for crappy gambling sites. The gambling site gets broken into. Those passwords get sold on the black market, and you can just go buy somebody's password and then break into their email account. Companies can be part of cyber warfare as a collateral damage. Maersk is one of the largest shipping companies in the world, an important part of the economy of the Netherlands. They were shut down for months and had over $200 million in losses due to the spread of a worm called NotPetya, pretending to be a piece of malware that locks up people's computers and holds the data for ransom. It was really a cyber weapon that was released by the Russian military and that was targeted at Ukrainian companies. They were able to trace back NotPetya to first being seeded in the world by being inserted in what is the Ukrainian equivalent of TurboTax. It very quickly escaped the Ukraine, and in this case, shut down computers not just at Maersk headquarters, but at ports around the world, and even the computers on the desks of all of their captains on all of their ships. Maersk was only able to recover from this attack because they got very lucky in that one of their ports in Africa had lost internet access. And so they had backups of some of this data sitting on one computer, not because they had done any good planning, not because they had a backup strategy, but just because the internet happened to be down in that African city that day. What can you do as companies, right? What are the things that you can do to protect yourself if you're going to play at this level? So the first piece of recommendation I can give everybody is to move everything into the cloud as possible. Now, this is different advice than you got 10, 15 years ago from security people, and the truth is those people who were saying that 10 years ago were wrong, and I am right now, so just believe what I'm saying now. The truth is that there's a huge number of pieces of software and IT systems that very few people are able to protect against this level of adversary. And one of those systems is email. One of the first things I did when I became the CISO at Facebook is I got Facebook off of hosting our own email. And this is despite the fact that I had like 127 people working for me. I had NSA, ex-NSA malware engineers, I had Russian speakers, I had Intel specialists. I still did not want to run my own email server. Software that complex that you don't build yourself, you can never understand it to the level where you're able to protect it. And that's true for a lot of these services. Anything you can push into the cloud, where there are professional teams who can amortize a huge amount of security engineering work across hundreds or thousands of customers, that is worthwhile. Something that a lot of companies don't do is they don't practice their response to these kinds of issues. And so the day that they get a difficult phone call, everybody is scrambling around with their heads cut off. Nobody knows who's in charge. Nobody knows what responsibilities are. And that is one of the basic problems I see in a lot of companies, is they think that they can just spend money up front and that they can prevent this kind of stuff from happening, and that's not true. And so one of the things I strongly recommend people to do is to do professional red teams, so have people break into their company professionally and not tell their defenders. And so one of the things we did at Facebook is we do the technical red team, and we take the findings from that of what is a realistic scenario for us to match here, and then we'd run a 2-day simulation of all of those other teams to see how they would respond. Now, obviously, you can't tell your legal department you've actually been hacked and then be like, oh, psych, afterwards, after they've called the FBI. And then once you do that kind of technical testing, the other recommendation I have is to have tabletop exercises where you simulate your response with the legal team, with the policy team, with government affairs, perhaps your outside attorneys. What you'll find is that people will start to figure out who is in charge of different things, what are the lines of communication. You're going to find a lot of problems with how your company would respond to this in the real world. If you want to run a security team in 2019, you have to accept the fact that you're going to get breached, right? You're going to have a breach. There is going to be an attacker who's better than you. They are going to get in. You have to accept that fact and you have to move past it. What you have to do is build defenses that are much deeper than just the outside, and you have to practice what your response is going to be so you have the ability to mitigate as much harm as possible.